He's already loading up on the right hand, and it's a missile. Somehow Duran ultra instincts his way out of that situation. But yeah, that right hand is just a missile. Let me do it in full speed. Let me do it in full speed. I don't know how he got out of the way of that, but he did. A little bit of a shovel hook, mostly a lead uppercut though, and catches Leonard, and you can see hitting a little bit of the stanky leg, getting a little bit of that, you know, Bambi leg, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk science, part 2 of this great fight, round 2. Exploring the jab and feint battle, talking about testing the range, testing the waters with the jab. Well, there's a lot of stuff we're gonna look at. Let's just get straight into it. Sugar Ray Leonard is trying to catch Duran leaning in, and we're gonna talk more about this, but there's a rhythm to how Duran kind of moves and twitches, and Sugar Ray Leonard is trying to adapt to that with his jab, and he kind of touches the forehead a little bit, but it doesn't really do anything. But it does kind of get Duran to back up, and Sugar Ray Leonard can start advancing, and that's kind of what he does right here. There's an interesting battle of kind of not pressure, but who's advancing and who's falling back. I guess that's kind of pressure. Here Leonard is still on the front foot. He's going to throw out a big feint just to get that reaction. He's testing the waters. Boom, he gets a big reaction out of Duran, and it was from a big feint. And we saw this earlier, but he likes that backhand parry to the jab. He pulls back slightly, and then he puts that right hand out to kind of smack that jab down. But Duran isn't just going to cede control. He's going to throw out a big step in feint right here. I can't remember if it's that big or yeah, it's pretty. It's like a in between. It's a moderate feint. It's in between minor and major. It's not a big massive feint like how we saw from Sugar Ray Leonard earlier, but it was enough, especially paired with the feint of the jab, to start regaining some control and reclaiming some territory. He stepped away from the ropes, and now they're in the center of the ring. Despite getting Sugar Ray Leonard to back up a little bit, you see he's going to start advancing a little bit more. So he's not completely, you know, thrown off by that. He's not completely discouraged. You see him stepping forward, and Duran knows that he has to get him back, and that's what Duran does. He also kind of thought that Sugar Ray Leonard was about to throw something right there, so you see him kind of react defensively, just expecting a jab probably. But at the same time, he pushes Leonard back with his own aggressive step forward. Now Duran is starting to give him more things to worry about. He's throwing out that feint of a jab, just filling the space in between them, also pushing Leonard back at times. But right now, Leonard is not really discouraged. He's not really super threatened. He's kind of reacting, but he's also responding. He's stepping forward. He feints the jab. But you see Duran's reaction. He kind of does a slip to the outside, loads up on that right hand, and then he's ready to throw it. So that's a reaction you got to look out from him, because he's going to start building off of that. But it's important to like recognize that pattern of how he's reacting to the jab, because it'll show up later. In that first part, I'm pretty sure we also talked about how Duran was getting more comfortable forcing Sugar Ray against the ropes, and we see the slow culmination of that. And this buildup is going to continue. He's going to try and force him against the ropes with more and more aggressive attacks and entries. Like how we were pointing out in the first round, Leonard is trying to stay calm, trying to stay relaxed, trying not to let Duran push him into brawls and stuff. Like, he's trying to stay on the outside and just keep this the type of fight where he can win, and you know, jab from the outside, box from the outside, use his speed, use his reflexes. And so you see him kind of release his shoulders, just small details like that. It's about to get real active in a second, but there's a lot that builds up to the moments. Leonard is going back to the feints, trying to get Duran to react and trying to get him to back up most of all. But Duran, he's not necessarily reacting the way Leonard wants. Duran kind of feints with that right hand, but it really just allows him to close the distance, and he kind of comes in wild, sneaks in a little bit of a left hand over top, but you see his foot coming off the ground. Yeah, Duran he's trying to imbue that chaos into this fight, and so he's taking any opportunity he can. If he sees an opening, he's gonna get wild. And that seems kind of counterintuitive, because you think that a boxer would want to be technical, but if the goal is to make it a brawl, then doing stuff like this can actually work to his advantage, because although he's not getting that much success off of it, it's kind of throwing Sugar Ray Leonard off. Duran is trying to time, or at least react to the jab in time, and which are two different things. Reacting is you see it coming and you use your reflexes, and timing is you kind of read the pattern and the rhythm, and you react accordingly. Not react, but act accordingly. Leonard steps in with the jab. Duran kind of sees it, pulls out of the way, tries to counter with that right hand that we were talking about. But Leonard also has some good preemptive defense. He might see that right. No, I don't think he sees that right hand. Yeah, that's just good preemptive defense, meaning that he moves not as a response, but as a prediction. Even though that shot misses, it's threatening enough to allow Duran to start putting on more front foot pressure, and he is now the one that's backing Sugar Ray Leonard up. Duran is gonna step in, feint the jab, and get Sugar Ray Leonard to duck, which he's gonna do a few more times, and we're gonna point that out. But yeah, feints the jab, Leonard ducks right there, and then he opens up a spot around the body, and that's what Duran takes advantage of right there. Now at this point, Duran is becoming more and more aggressive, and so Leonard is becoming more and more on higher alert, which means his reactiveness to the feints is going to be even greater. And I'm pretty sure Duran is at least, somewhat aware of this. And so a little bit of a feint of the lead hand gets a big reaction out of Leonard and gets him against the ropes. And that's when Duran is like, oh yeah, this is exactly where I want him to be. And so Duran is going to get even more aggressive now that he has him on the ropes. And like how we said earlier, the jab feint from Duran is getting Leonard to duck, level change, sometimes slip to either side, but regardless, he's lowering the level of his head, and Duran sees that, and he's starting to adapt to that defensive movement from Leonard. And of course, every time Sugar Ray Leonard is against the ropes and Duran is trying to make it an inside fight, Sugar Ray Leonard is trying to shut that down whenever he can, usually with the double overhooks, just trying to lock those arms in place. Now, Duran has a rhythm where he bounces in such a way that his weight and his head goes over his lead foot and knee. You're going to see him do it a couple times within this cycle right here. Boom. He kind of does it right there. And then he's going to do it a little bit again. And he does it especially right there. But yeah, he has a rhythm where he does that. And that's what I think Leonard is paying attention to when he's trying to time his jab. And so Leonard's going to kind of wait for that moment. And he sees that Duran's head is over his lead foot, and he throws out that jab. But I think Duran is slowly becoming aware that Leonard is doing that, or at the very least he's getting a better read for his body language, because he sees that Leonard is stepping in and he starts throwing a counter jab, and so they trade jabs because they're both reading each other's body language so well. But the difference is Duran is following up with a right hand. However, Sugar Ray Leonard is so good that he's preemptively getting out of the way because he's expecting something behind that jab. Or just whenever he gets touched, he's reacting 2 times instead of once, or he's acting 2 times instead of once. So he doesn't just get hit by a jab and sit there. He gets hit by a jab and he's like, there's probably going to be a right hand, and he moves accordingly. Now, Duran is trying to keep the pace. He immediately is stepping out with one jab up top. Doesn't land, but he's trying to pin down Sugar Ray Leonard and keep the pace from that exchange. And he throws a jab to the body, but Leonard sees his jab to the body so fast, he's already loading up on the right hand, and it's a missile. Somehow Duran ultra instincts his way out of that situation. But yeah, that right hand is just a missile. Let me do it in full speed. I don't know how he got out of the way of that, but he did. Notice the different intents, like the different desires behind the jab, the goals. Duran is kind of throwing out a probing jab that's feeling, measuring, establishing, setting up stuff. Leonard is kind of reacting and responding, and most importantly, he's trying to send a message. He's trying to tell Duran to back up, slow down. So look at how much more the intent behind Leonard's jab is to send a message, right? It's fast, it's snappy, it's a better scoring jab. However, I consistently make it a point to differentiate between analyzing and scoring, because Leonard has the better scoring jab. It lands, it's clean, all of that. But Duran's jab isn't necessarily meant to land. We've seen that since round 1. He kind of throws it short, and it's kind of like right there. Sometimes he's kind of like using it as a blinder, but it's just right there at the edge of range, which honestly takes a lot of skill to do that as well, to be just short. but it also disguises his step in, and then it sets up other shots, because we saw Duran earlier targeting Leonard whenever he get him to duck in response to the jab feint. So he knows where Leonard is going to be. That's why when he throws the jab, he's immediately changing levels, and he meets him right there with this right hand, touches him on the ear. Doesn't really have a big effect, but Duran knows where he's going to be. He knows he's going to exit, so he follows him with that kind of lead uppercut, a little bit of a shovel hook, mostly a lead uppercut though, and catches Leonard. And you can see hitting a little bit of the stanky leg, getting a little bit of that, you know, Bambi leg, whatever you want to call it. He got a little bit hurt by that. Well, I would say more than a little bit. He got hurt. Now watch this masterful use of the lead hand to literally paint his wounded opponent into the corner. So they just got done not exchanging. Duran is trying to beat him up, and Leonard is trying to clinch and shut him down and escape. But Duran is using that lead hand to feint and just boom, slowly push him back, get more aggressive with it, force him against the ropes, force him into the corner. And now he's getting closer to where he can act upon the amount of territory he's claimed. Basically, territory meaning positioning in the ring. How much space do you have to move and do what you want to do? Duran has so much space to move and do what he wants to do, if you can look at where they are in the ring. Leonard has very little room to breathe, and he's losing room because Duran is purposely taking it from him with the lead hand. Now this is an interesting moment, because as soon as Leonard feels his back touch the ropes, he instantly gets I don't want to say like he gets more tense. Like his reactions are become more aggressive defensively. So instead of just backing up, now he realizes he has to do something other than back up, and he ducks, which he's been doing pretty consistently anyways, especially in response to that jab feint. And again, Duran knows that he's going to do that, and so he's there to meet him with the uppercut, and then he tries to catch him right there with another uppercut. Now as he's throwing the second uppercut to the body, look at his right foot. Now this is subtle ring generalship right here. Just boom, big step with the right foot, because he knows that Leonard only has one way to go. That's the importance of territory. You start limiting options. If someone is trying to escape, you start closing exits, and then that means they can only go through one door, and you know what door that is, and so you can catch them. And that's exactly what Duran does. Duran closes all the doors, traps him, and starts following up with shots. Leonard is trying to regain his composure, so he's slow to do most things due to hesitancy. But on another note, I think it's becoming increasingly more obvious and demonstrable that Duran knows that Leonard's jab is going to come as a response to when Duran leans his weight over that lead foot. And you can see as soon as he leans it over, he's kind of he's springboard ready to pull back, because he knows that Leonard is going to be responding with the jab. But that jab is so fast that it's hard to time anyways. Now earlier we called Sugar Ray Leonard a wounded opponent, but a wounded animal is still an animal. And wounded animals are generally the most dangerous because they're wounded and because they're cornered. Now Leonard is getting space to breathe, and the pace kind of slowed down for a little bit under 30 seconds. And so now he's trying to retake some of the fire that he lost in this section of the fight. And so he steps in with the jab. And of course, Duran has that right hand parrying and pulling back, like how we established earlier. And then there comes that big chopping overhand right. Duran sees it coming, pulls out of the way, but more preemptive defense, because you know most combos are left, right, left, right, left, right. And so as he turns away from the right, he also turns away from the left. He doesn't necessarily know it's coming, but it's just good defensive practice to have the preemptive movement. So both of them are really good at that. But obviously these are two of the greatest fighters of all time, so of course they're good at that. But yeah, the way he turns and he has that arm extended, kind of like locking up, just good punch traffic. Just he's so smooth. Underrated defense, Roberto Duran. Again, we see the perils of trying to take out a wounded animal. Leonard, I think at this point, is slowly realizing that he will have to fight Duran. In order to get Duran off of him, he's gonna have to fight. He's gonna have to hurt him. And so he loads up on a big chopping right hand, but he does it in an interesting way, because he doubles up. Throws the first right hand to the body, And what we just said in the last clip is that most combos are left, right. And so preemptively, you are kind of programmed to expect that a left hand will follow. So when you double up on the right hand, you see Duran is completely not prepared for that. He gets blasted with that right hand. That's one thing. The other thing is that Leonard pulls this back so far, I think his arm is through the ropes. And so he blasts him with this right hand, but Duran gets underneath the left. And so Leonard is still dangerous. That's the point. Now it's becoming a little bit of a inside brawl, and they kind of break off every now and then. Leonard throws the left to the body. Duran tries to answer back. Leonard gets underneath it, but he knows that Leonard is exiting range, and so he can kind of follow him on the way out. But Leonard kind of rolls with the shoulder and turns away from it a little bit. And now Duran is trying to follow up, but Leonard's getting underneath that. And now he's trying to follow with the uppercut, but it kind of gets smothered. And so, yeah. This second round was very interesting, and I remember watching it for the first time. Not necessarily the second round, but the first round leading into the second round. And I was like, I feel like even though Sugar Ray Leonard technically won scoring in the first round, things were looking quite dire for him going into the second. And then that turned out to be true because Duran was adapting to Leonard. And I think Leonard was still in the process of trying to slow Duran down. So they had two different goals. Duran was trying to get to Leonard, hurt him. And so he was on the hunt and he was adapting. And Leonard was trying to keep him back. But in the process of trying to keep him back, there wasn't much adaptation. There was just responses and reactions and not too much building. But yeah, more to come. I think I might cover Eubank versus Ben tomorrow. I don't know. It depends on how interesting it is. That weight cut is yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. No promises though, because if that fight is boring or if it's weird, I don't know. That's all. I'm out, Fight Scientist. See y'all later.